Ever feel like you're just existing instead of truly living? You wake up, go through the motions, interact with people, but deep down, something feels off. Your relationships, your connections, do they bring true fulfillment, or are they just another part of the routine? Most people spend their lives chasing illusions, drowning in regret, and missing the lessons that could have transformed their relationships into something deeper, richer, and more authentic. Imagine being on your deathbed and realizing you wasted time on the wrong things, holding on to resentment, chasing shallow approval, or investing in relationships that were never meant to last. But it doesn't have to be that way. Today, we're going to confront this reality head-on with 8 Stoic lessons people learn too late in life. Lessons that, when applied, can completely change how you approach relationships and change your life. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. It's never too late to start living with intention, wisdom, and deep connection. Let's begin. You are replaceable, and that's not a bad thing. At work, in your social circles, even within your family, life will continue without you. The world doesn't stop turning when you leave, and the sooner you accept this, the sooner you can free yourself from the exhausting need to prove your worth to everyone around you. Most people spend their lives trying to be indispensable. They work late hours, sacrifice their well-being, and convince themselves that without them, everything would fall apart. But this is an illusion. The fear of being forgotten. The fear of being replaceable is really the fear of being forgotten. Society teaches us to strive for significance, to be the best, the most needed, the one others can't function without. But has anyone ever truly been irreplaceable? Think about the biggest companies in the world. CEOs come and go, yet the company moves forward. People retire, teams restructure, and businesses adapt. It's the same in life. Friendships evolve, relationships change, and even after the loss of loved ones, life continues. This may sound harsh, but it is actually freeing. Embracing replaceability as freedom. What if, instead of fearing this reality, you embraced it? What if you stopped seeking validation from your job, your relationships, and society, and instead started living for yourself? When you let go of the pressure to be irreplaceable, you unlock a new kind of freedom. You stop working yourself to exhaustion just to prove a point. You stop clinging to toxic relationships out of fear of being alone. You stop shaping your life around others' expectations and start focusing on what truly matters to you. By embracing your replaceability, you give yourself permission to live authentically, to choose joy over obligation, purpose over status, and real fulfillment over superficial success. The day I realized I was replaceable, I learned this lesson the hard way. For years, I poured everything into my job. I stayed late, took on extra responsibilities, and convinced myself that my role was crucial. I believed that if I ever left, things would fall apart. Then one day, I was laid off. I expected chaos in my absence, but instead, the company moved forward as if nothing had happened. My replacement was hired within weeks, and business continued. As usual, at first it was devastating. My ego took a hit. I had built my identity around being essential, and when that was stripped away, I felt lost. But then something strange happened. I felt relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by the need to prove my value to people who could replace me in an instant. I realized my job had never been my identity, and my worth had never been tied to how needed I was by others. Be authentic, not irreplaceable. You don't need to be irreplaceable. You just need to be real. The desire to be indispensable is rooted in insecurity, the need for validation, the need to matter. But what if you already mattered just as you are? Instead of trying to be someone that people need, be someone they want to have around. Not because they can't function without you, but because they genuinely value your presence. When you stop trying to be irreplaceable, you start focusing on what truly matters. Living a life that fulfills you. building relationships based on authenticity, not dependency making an impact, not by being necessary, but by being genuine. So next time you feel the pressure to prove your worth, remind yourself, you are replaceable, and that's okay. Because the real goal isn't to be irreplaceable. It's to make the time you have truly meaningful. And that starts by living for yourself, not for the approval of others. Comfort feels safe. It's familiar, predictable, and easy. But the hard truth is, comfort is a trap. We are wired to seek comfort, to minimize uncertainty and maximize security. But the very thing we strive for, an easy, predictable life, is the same thing that keeps us stagnant. Growth never happens inside your comfort zone. If you want to become stronger, smarter, more resilient, and more fulfilled, you have to seek discomfort. The Stoics understood this well. They knew that shielding yourself from hardship only makes you weaker. That's why they practiced voluntary hardship, choosing temporary discomfort so they would never become too soft, too complacent, or too dependent on luxury. And today, this principle is just as relevant as it was 2,000 years ago. Why we fear. Comfort feels like security. It reassures us that everything is okay, that we're in control. But in reality, comfort is the greatest enemy of personal growth. Think about it. When was the last time you truly improved yourself while staying comfortable? Did you build strength by staying in bed instead of working out? Did you advance in your career by sticking to a safe, predictable job? Did your relationships deepen by avoiding tough conversations? The answer is always no. Growth only happens when you embrace discomfort. Yet most people run from discomfort. They avoid difficult decisions, they stay in unfulfilling jobs. They maintain surface-level friendships because true emotional connection requires vulnerability. And the result? A life of quiet mediocrity. New perspective. Voluntary hardship. Why the strongest people seek discomfort. While most people chase comfort, successful people do the opposite. They seek out difficulty on purpose. This is called voluntary hardship. Elite. Athletes push their bodies beyond their limits in training. Entrepreneurs risk everything to build something meaningful. Writers, artists, and creators struggle through failure after failure before they produce anything great. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, practiced deliberate discomfort. Despite his wealth, he would spend days living in poverty, eating only the simplest food. Why? To remind himself that he didn't need luxury to survive. To toughen his mind against hardship before it ever arrived. And this wasn't just philosophy. It was preparation. When you expose yourself to difficulty, you become resilient. You stop fearing the unknown. You stop avoiding risks. You build the kind of strength that makes you unbreakable, quitting comfort to find growth. A few years ago, I had a stable job, a nice apartment, and a predictable routine. On the surface, I had everything I was supposed to want, but deep down I felt stuck. Stagnant, like I was just existing instead of truly living. Then I did something crazy. I quit my job. I sold most of my belongings, packed a suitcase, and moved to a new city with no plan and no safety net. For the first time in years, I had no idea what would happen next. And you know what? It was terrifying, but it was also the best decision I ever made. Stepping into the unknown forced me to adapt, think creatively, and rely on myself in ways I never had before. I met new people, learned new skills, and discovered a level of resilience I never knew I had. Had I stayed in my comfortable routine, none of that growth would have happened. Why discomfort makes you stronger. The Stoics believed that discomfort is a teacher. They intentionally sought challenges, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they knew that a comfortable life makes you weak. Marcus Aurelius trained his mind to endure pain and loss, so that when hardship came, he was prepared. Epictetus, who was born into slavery, believed that resilience is built by embracing struggle, not avoiding it. Seneca practiced sleeping on the floor and wearing ragged clothes, not because he had to, but to prove to himself that he could. They understood that the ability to endure discomfort is the key to true freedom, because once you stop fearing discomfort, you stop being controlled by it. Stop chasing comfort, start chasing growth. If you feel stuck in life, ask yourself, are you too comfortable? Are you avoiding difficult conversations, new challenges, or risks? Are you prioritizing safety over growth? The solution? Start embracing discomfort. Take risks. Challenge yourself daily. Step outside of your routine. Seek situations that force you to grow. Because here's the truth. The easy path leads to stagnation. The hard path leads to transformation. Which one are you going to choose? We are constantly told to plan for the future. From a young age, we are conditioned to believe that success, happiness, and fulfillment are things we must work toward. Save for retirement, build a career, find the right partner, buy a house, make smart investments. It sounds logical, even responsible. But here's the brutal truth. The future is a trap. It's a seductive illusion that keeps us chasing a horizon that never arrives. It convinces us that happiness isn't here, but somewhere in the distance, just out of reach. The Stoics understood this. They knew that the only thing we ever truly have is this moment. Yet most people postpone joy, living in a constant state of almost happy, waiting for a perfect future that never comes. Why do we delay happiness? The arrival fallacy. If you've ever thought I'll be happy when, then you've fallen into the arrival fallacy, the belief that happiness will come after achieving a specific goal. Once I get that promotion, I'll feel accomplished. Once I find the right person, I'll finally feel complete. Once I save enough money, I'll start enjoying life. But here's what actually happens. We reach the goal and the feeling is fleeting. We get the promotion, but now there's pressure to perform at a higher level. We find the right partner, but we realize that relationships take work. We save the money, but now we're worried about losing it. The moment we achieve one thing, our mind immediately jumps to the next goal. Happiness always seems to be just around the corner, but we never actually arrive. The endless chase. For some day, I used to believe that happiness was something I needed to earn. I set big goals. I convinced myself that once I reached them, I would finally feel fulfilled. I worked insane hours, sacrificed personal time, and pushed myself constantly, chasing a future that I thought would bring me peace. But every time I reached a goal, I barely celebrated it before moving on to the next one. Instead of feeling satisfied, I felt empty, because the fulfillment I was searching for wasn't in the achievement. It was in the present moment all along. I just never allowed myself to see it. One day, I realized that if I kept living like this, I would spend my entire life waiting for happiness, waiting for the right time to enjoy myself, waiting for a future that might never come. And that terrified me. So I made a change. I stopped treating happiness like a destination and started practicing gratitude for what I already had. I slowed down. I stopped glorifying busyness. I made a commitment to truly live in the present, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Why? The future is an illusion. The Stoics believed that obsessing over the future is one of the greatest sources of human suffering. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Do not dwell on the future. It is beyond your grasp. Instead, confine yourself to the present task as if it is the last thing you will ever do." In other words, the past is gone, the future doesn't exist, and the only thing that matters is what you do right now. Yet, we let our thoughts pull us into tomorrow. I'll spend more time with my family once I'm less busy. I'll take that trip once I have more money. I'll start living the life I want someday. But someday isn't real. The Stoics saw time as the most valuable resource. Unlike money, you can't earn more of it. You can't save it for later. You can't get back what's already spent. So why waste it living for a future that might never come? Stop waiting. Start living. If you're always waiting for the right time to enjoy your life, here's your wake-up call. There is no right time. The perfect moment will never come. The stars will never align. You will never feel fully ready. And that's okay. Because happiness isn't something you achieve. It's something you practice. Instead of waiting for someday, appreciate today. Instead of planning endlessly, take action now. Instead of believing happiness is in the future, realize that this moment is all you ever truly have. The future is a trap. The present is where life happens. So stop chasing someday. Start living today. We live in a world that constantly tells us to want more. More money, more success, more validation, more recognition, more possessions. From the moment we are old enough to understand ambition, we are conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to what we achieve and acquire. Society paints happiness as something external, something we must chase, something always just beyond our reach. But here's the cold, hard truth. The more we desire, the more miserable we become. Desire is a trap, a never-ending cycle that convinces us that happiness is always one step away, but never actually here. The Stoics understood this well. That's why they taught that true peace comes not from fulfilling desires, but from detaching from them. The paradox of success. Why getting what you want won't make you happy. We all have an idea of what we think will finally make us happy. For some, it's financial security. For others, it's recognition, status, or a dream lifestyle. We tell ourselves that once we get there, once we hit the next level of success, then, and only then, will we feel fulfilled. But here's the paradox. Success often leads to emptiness, not happiness. How many celebrities, millionaires, and high achievers seem deeply unhappy, despite having everything? That's because desire is a moving target. You get the job promotion, and now you want a higher position. You earn more money, and suddenly your lifestyle inflates, and it's still not enough. You achieve a goal, but the feeling of accomplishment fades quickly, leaving you asking what's next. This is the hedonic treadmill, a psychological trap where the more we get, the more we want, and the more we want, the less satisfied we feel. Because desire doesn't bring peace, it creates more craving. The man who had everything yet felt nothing. I once knew someone who, by all societal standards, had it all. He had built a successful business, was making more money than he could ever spend, had a beautiful home, a luxury car, and the kind of life most people dream of. But despite everything, he was deeply unhappy. Why? Because the hunger for more never stopped. At first, he thought financial success would bring fulfillment, but when he achieved that, he realized he wanted influence. Then he wanted recognition. Then he wanted power. Each time he reached a new level, he felt momentary satisfaction, then emptiness. His mind was always in the future, chasing the next big thing, and in the process, he missed the present. His relationships suffered because he was too busy working. His health declined because he was constantly stressed. And worst of all, he never felt like he had enough. The truth is, he was trapped by his own desires, and if we're not careful, we all fall into the same cycle. Letting go of endless cravings, the Stoics saw desire not as a motivator, but as a poison, something that corrupts the mind, fuels dissatisfaction, and pulls us away from true contentment. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Think about that for a second. It's not having more that makes you rich, it's wanting less. The moment you stop basing your happiness on external desires, you take back control of your life. Instead of chasing more, you start appreciating what you already have. Instead of looking for validation from the outside world, you find fulfillment within. Instead of believing that happiness is something you must achieve, you realize it's something you can cultivate right now by letting go. Stop chasing, start living. If you constantly feel like you need more to be, Happy? Ask yourself, will achieving this truly bring me lasting peace or just temporary excitement? Am I delaying happiness by always focusing on the next goal? What do I already have that I'm not appreciating? The Stoics didn't believe in rejecting success, but they believed in not being enslaved by it. Success is fine, money is useful, growth is important, but none of it will bring you lasting fulfillment unless you learn to be content first. So here's the challenge. Stop looking for happiness in what's next. Detach from the need for more. Find joy in what you already have, because when you desire less, you suffer less. And when you stop chasing happiness, that's when you actually find it. Most people live their entire lives trying to impress others. They shape their choices, their careers, even their relationships around what will make them look good in the eyes of society, their peers, and even complete strangers. But here's the truth. Nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they are. We are all the main character in our own stories, which means that while you're worried about what people think of you, they're too busy worrying about what others think of them. And yet so many people waste their lives seeking validation, chasing approval instead of authenticity, performing instead of being. The Stoics understood that caring too much about opinions is a prison, and the only way to be truly free is to let go. The approval trap. Why we care. Too much from childhood, we are trained to seek approval. We're praised when we follow the rules. We're rewarded for meeting expectations. We're socially conditioned to fit in, to be liked, to be accepted. This makes sense. After all, humans are social creatures. We want to be part of a group. We want to feel important. But somewhere along the way, this turns into fear. Fear of being judged, fear of disappointing others, fear of being disliked. And so we censor ourselves. We hold back our opinions. We hesitate to take risks. We choose the safe path, not because it's right for us, but because it looks good to others. The irony? The people whose opinions we fear the most will forget about us sooner than we think. The 5-year rule. Will this even matter? One of the simplest ways to break free from this trap is the 5-year rule. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? Will it matter that you embarrassed yourself in a meeting? Will it matter that someone judged your career choice? Will it matter that people didn't understand your decisions? Most of the time, the answer is no. So if it won't matter in 5 years, why let it control your happiness now? The truth is, people's opinions are temporary. What seems like a big deal today will fade into irrelevance in time. So why waste your life trying to impress people who won't even remember? The moment I stopped caring, for years I was trapped in the approval cycle. I made decisions based on what others expected. I played it safe because I didn't want to be judged. I was afraid to take risks, afraid to stand out, afraid of what people might say. Then one day I had an opportunity to do something bold, something that excited me. But I hesitated. What will people think? What if I fail and they laugh? What if they judge me? I nearly let fear stop me. But then I asked myself, in 5 years, will the opinions of these people even matter? And I realized, no, they won't. So, I did it anyway. And once I let go of seeking approval, my life changed dramatically. I stopped filtering my words. I stopped living to impress. I started making decisions that felt right for me, not for anyone else. And here's what surprised me the most. The moment I stopped caring about their opinions, people actually respected me more. Because authenticity is magnetic. Confidence is attractive. And when you live unapologetically, the right people gravitate toward you. Mastering the art of being misunderstood. The Stoics believed that being misunderstood is not a failure, it's a sign of independence. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, if you care too much about what others think, you will never be free. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." People will always have opinions. Some will misunderstand you. Some will criticize you, but you don't have to internalize it. The Stoics practiced contemptuous self-reliance, the ability to stand firm in who you are, even when others don't approve. And that is where real freedom begins. Live for yourself, not for them. So ask yourself, are you living for yourself, or are you living for approval? Are you holding back your true self just to be liked? Are you making decisions based on what makes you happy, or what looks good to others? Here's the truth. You will never please everyone. No matter how carefully you craft your image, someone will always have something to say. So stop chasing approval. Stop filtering yourself. Stop caring about the opinions of people who won't even matter in the long run. Because at the end of your life, you won't regret being misunderstood. You'll regret not truly living. Most people believe that if they just plan carefully enough, work hard enough, and make the right decisions, life will unfold exactly as they want it to. But here's the truth. Control is an illusion. No matter how much effort you put into organizing your life, you can't predict or control everything. You can't control the economy. You can't control other people's actions. You can't control the unexpected twists and turns life will throw your way. And the more you try to control things outside your power, the more you set yourself up for stress, frustration, and suffering. The Stoics understood this well, which is why they focused not on controlling the world, but on controlling their response to it. That's where real power lies. Why trying to control everything leads to misery. People spend their lives obsessing over things they can't control. They stress about what others think of them. They get frustrated when things don't go according to plan. They cling to the idea that life should be a certain way, and they suffer when reality doesn't match their expectations. The truth is, resisting reality doesn't change reality. It only makes you miserable. Think about the last time something unexpected happened. A sudden job loss, a breakup, a failed plan. Was your first reaction panic? Anger? Fear? That's because when things don't go our way, we feel out of control, and that's terrifying. But here's what the Stoics knew. You never had control to begin with. The 90-10 rule, what actually determines your life. There's a simple concept that can change the way you see the world. The 90-10 rule. It states that 10% of life is what happens to you. The 90% is how you respond to it. Think about that. Most people believe their happiness is determined by external events. I lost my job, so my life is ruined. My partner left me, so I'll never be happy. The economy is bad, so I can't succeed. But the Stoics saw it differently. They understood that while you can't always control events, you can always control your reaction. And your reaction is what shapes your reality. Instead of saying, "This is unfair," ask, "How can I adapt?" Instead of saying, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" This shift in mindset is what separates those who thrive from those who crumble under pressure. When I lost control over my life, I used to believe that if I planned my life well enough, I could avoid failure, pain, and disappointment. I had everything mapped out, my career, my relationships, my future. And then all at once, everything fell apart. I lost my job. A close relationship ended. Financial stress hit me harder than ever before. I remember sitting there completely overwhelmed, thinking, how did this happen? This wasn't supposed to be my life. At first, I resisted reality. I kept wishing things were different. I kept replaying what I could have done to prevent it. I kept clinging to the idea that I should have had control. But then, I realized something. The only thing I could control was my response. So I stopped focusing on what I had lost and started focusing on what I could do next. I took small steps. I adapted. I embraced uncertainty instead of fearing it. And over time, things got better, not because I forced life to go my way, but because I learned to flow with it. Control what you can, ignore what you can't. The Stoics believed in a simple but powerful principle. You can't control external events, You can control how you respond. That's it. That's all you need to know. Epictetus put it best. Some things are within our control and some things are not. The key to happiness is knowing the difference. This mindset is life-changing because it frees you from unnecessary suffering. If someone insults you, you can't control their words, but you can control whether you react with anger or indifference. If a relationship ends, you can't control the other person's feelings, but you can control whether you move forward with dignity or drown in self-pity. If the world throws obstacles in your path, you can't change what happened, but you can choose how to face it. That's where real power lies. Let go and adapt, ease. The truth, you are not in control of life, you never were, and that's okay, because you don't need to control life. You just need to learn how to adapt to it. The more you try to force life to fit your expectations, the more you will suffer. But the moment you let go of what you can't control and focus on what you can, your mindset, your actions, your response, you become unstoppable. So the next time life throws you an unexpected challenge, ask yourself, am I wasting energy trying to control something that's outside my power? If the answer is yes, let it go. Because true strength isn't about controlling everything. It's about learning to thrive no matter what happens. No relationship lasts forever. People change. Circumstances shift. Friendships fade. Lovers part. Even the strongest bonds are subject to the unpredictable nature of life. Yet most of us live as if relationships should be permanent. We hold on too tightly. We resist change. We expect people to always stay the same, always be there, always fulfill the role we've assigned to them. And when they don't, when friendships drift, when love fades, when people leave, we feel betrayed, abandoned, or lost. But here's the truth the Stoics understood. Expecting permanence in relationships leads to suffering. Embracing impermanence leads to peace, the illusion of permanence. Why we cling to relationships? Why do we struggle so much when relationships change? Because we've been conditioned to believe in forever. Movies, books, and society tell us that, true. Love should last a lifetime. Best friends should never drift apart. Family bonds should remain unbreakable. So when a relationship ends, whether it's a friendship that fades, a breakup that blindsides us, or even the passing of a loved one, we feel like something unnatural has happened. But the truth is, change is the only natural thing in life. The more we fight against it, the more we suffer. The solution? Cherish relationships while they last, but accept that nothing is forever. The seasons of people. Concept. Why not everyone? Stays one of the most freeing realizations in life is this. Some people are in your life for a reason. Some people are in your life for a season. And some people are in your life for a lifetime. And that's okay. Some friendships teach us valuable lessons but are never meant to last. Some relationships burn bright but fade quickly. Some people enter our lives at the perfect moment to help us grow, only to leave when their role is complete. Understanding this removes the bitterness of endings. Instead of feeling angry or abandoned, you learn to appreciate what was, without clinging to what can no longer be. When someone exits your life, ask yourself, was this person here for a reason, a season, or a lifetime? And instead of mourning their departure, be grateful for their presence while they were here. Losing a close friendship. I once had a friendship that I thought would last forever. We were inseparable. We shared everything, dreams, struggles, laughter, late-night talks. I couldn't imagine my life without this person. But then life happened. We moved in different directions. Our priorities changed. Slowly, the bond that once felt unbreakable began to fade. At first, I fought it. I tried to hold on. I reached out more. I made more effort. I tried to force the friendship to stay the same. But the harder I clung, the more it slipped away. Then one day I realized we had served our purpose in each other's lives. We had been there for each other when we needed it most. We had grown, learned, and shaped each other in meaningful ways. But our season was over, and that didn't mean the friendship was a failure. It meant it had fulfilled its purpose. Once I accepted that, I was able to let go, not with resentment, but with gratitude. The Stoic perspective. Letting go brings peace. The Stoics understood that clinging to what must change is the root of suffering. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to love." He reminds us that nothing is guaranteed. Every moment we share with someone is a gift, not a right. Instead of expecting relationships to last forever, the Stoics practiced accepting impermanence. They believed that by embracing change, we free ourselves from unnecessary pain. When we expect nothing to be permanent, we stop fearing endings. Instead, we learn to love fully, appreciate deeply, and let go gracefully. Love without attachment. If you struggle with relationships changing, ask yourself, am I holding on to a relationship that has already served its purpose? Am I expecting people to stay the same when life naturally changes them? Am I resisting reality instead of embracing it? Here's the truth. Love isn't about possession. It's about appreciation. Cherish the people in your life while they are here. Love them fully, without the fear of losing them. But when it's time to let go with grace. Because real peace comes not from clinging, but from embracing the impermanence of everything. Most people spend their lives running from the thought of death. They avoid talking about it, thinking about it, and confronting its reality. Society treats death as something distant, something we can worry about later. But here's the truth. Death is not something to fear. It's something to remember. The awareness of death is what gives life meaning, urgency, and clarity. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They practiced Memento Mori, the daily contemplation of death, not as a morbid exercise, but as a way to live more fully. Because once you accept that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. The biggest regrets of the dying and how to avoid them. Hospice workers and nurses who care for people in their final days often hear the same regrets over and over again. The top regrets of the dying are not about money, success, or material possessions. They are, I wish I had lived true to myself, not what others expected of me. I wish I hadn't worked so much and had spent more time with my loved ones. I wish I had expressed my feelings more and told people how I truly felt. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had let myself be happier instead of always waiting for the right moment. These regrets aren't about what people did, they're about what they didn't do, the risks they didn't take, the love they didn't express, the time they wasted worrying about things that didn't matter. So the question is, are you living in a way that will leave you without regrets? Or are you spending your days putting off happiness waiting for the right time, assuming you have forever? Because the truth is, you don't. Experiencing loss and realizing how fragile life is, I used to live as if time was endless. I put off things I wanted to do. I assumed I would have more time to tell people how much they meant to me. I let small problems consume my energy. Then I lost someone close to me, suddenly and without warning. One moment they were here. The next they were gone. And in that moment I realized just how fragile life really is. I thought about all the conversations we never had. The time I took for granted. The words left unspoken. I had spent so much time living in the future, thinking, one day I'll have time for that. But one day never came. That loss changed me. It forced me to confront a simple but painful truth. We are all running out of time. And instead of fearing that, I decided to use it. I stopped delaying joy. I started telling people how much they meant to me. I stopped sweating the small stuff. I started living as if time was short. Because it is. The Stoic practice of Memento Mori. Why you should think about death. Every day, the Stoics believed that The awareness of death is the key to living fully. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Seneca put it even more bluntly. Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end. Let us postpone nothing. Memento Mori, Latin for remember that you will die, is a reminder, not a warning. The goal isn't to live in fear of death. The goal is to stop taking life for granted, to wake up each morning and ask, if today were my last day, would I be proud of how I'm living? Am I spending my time on what truly matters? Have I told the people I love how much they mean to me? When you embrace Memento Mori, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. Stop holding back love and appreciation. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to start living, because the perfect moment is now. Live with urgency. Love without hesitation. If you knew you had 1 year left to live, what would you do differently? Would you keep working a job you hate? Stay in relationships that drain you? Worry about the opinions of people who don't truly matter? Or would you finally chase your dreams? Express how you really feel? Spend more time with the people who matter most? You don't need a terminal diagnosis to start living this way. You just need to remember that your time is limited. Because one day it will be too late, but today you still have time, so don't waste it. Love deeply. Take risks. Say what needs to be said, because when death finally comes, the only way to be ready is to know that you truly lived. These 8 Stoic lessons may be harsh, but they are the truth. They strip away illusions, challenge the way we think, and force us to confront the uncomfortable realities of life. But while these truths may be uncomfortable, avoiding them only leads to regret. The Stoics understood something most people spend their entire lives ignoring. You are replaceable, so live for yourself, not for the approval of others. Comfort is the enemy of growth, so stop seeking an easy life and start seeking a meaningful one. The future is a trap, so stop postponing happiness and start living now. Desire is a poison, so stop chasing more and start appreciating what you already have. The opinion of others doesn't matter, so stop filtering yourself and start being authentic. Control is an illusion, so stop resisting change and start adapting to it. Relationships are impermanent, so stop clinging and start cherishing the time you have. Death is your best friend, so stop wasting time and start living with urgency. If you embrace these truths, you gain freedom. The freedom to stop chasing, the freedom to stop fearing, the freedom to stop living according to expectations that aren't your own, and most importantly, the freedom to start living authentically, fearlessly, and with purpose. Are you really living? Now, it's your turn. Take a moment to reflect. What's one truth you've been avoiding? What's one area of your life where you're clinging to illusions instead of facing reality? What's one small action you can take today to start living more authentic, fearless life? Because here's the thing, you only get one life. The question is, are you going to truly live it or just exist? The choice is yours.